Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about tech. Let's talk about tech.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of our new web series, Let's Talk About Tech. In this series, we hope to bring you information on the latest in all things tech, gadgets, apps, services, and also our topic for today, security. My name is Phil Urquhart and I'll be your host, so let's get into it. Every time we connect to the internet, we are vulnerable. Our data, files, emails, databases for example, and our systems like computer operating environments or software, and even our identities are at risk. Now, when I say our identity's at risk, I'm not talking about John Travolta running around on the internet looking for a carbon copy of your face to surgically replace with his own in an attempt to avenge the inadvertent death of his son due to a botched assassination attempt by Nicolas Cage. No, I'm not suggesting that threats on the internet are based on one of the greatest movies of all time. But online identity theft can be a confusing concept, so let's start with that. So, what is identity theft? What we're talking about here is digital identity theft. But actual identity theft could be termed the world's second oldest profession. It's something that has existed in the real world for almost as long as humans have been on this planet. Wikipedia's description is: identity theft is the deliberate use of someone else's identity, usually as a method to gain a financial advantage or obtain credit and other benefits in the other person's name, and perhaps to the other person's disadvantage or loss. So perhaps my face-off movie analogy wasn't so far off. In the movie, John Travolta, an FBI agent, needs to infiltrate an international crime ring run by Nicolas Cage's character, and to enable him to do so, they conduct a surgical procedure to take Nick Cage's face off and implant this onto John's head, causing him to look like Nick and therefore take on his identity, stealing his identity, thefting his identity. Identity theft. He can now infiltrate the gang and take them down from the inside. But how does this work in the digital environment? I guess the best way to answer this question is with another question. What is our face on the internet? How do you, or anybody for that matter, identify me? Again, Wikipedia defines your internet identity as internet identity, IID, also online identity or internet persona, is a social identity that an internet user establishes in online communities and websites. Now, that is pretty ambiguous, so let's break it down. The first in our bullet list is quite obvious, as it is one of our primary identifiers in both real life and our digital life. It's our name. The second in the list is our association name. This could be our business, our club, our church, our family group, any group that we are associated with. The third in the list is our email address. That's pretty obvious. It's our most common and our most vulnerable identifier. The fourth point is a location or a department. And while this doesn't seem like an important component, this piece of information is often used to tie points 1, 2 and 3 together. Check this out. If I take point 1, my name, and then my association, what do we get? Name plus association equals my email address. Mind blown. Welcome to your first introduction into how these people and systems think. They don't always need all of your information, just enough parts to piece together your overall ID. And as you may have picked up from my previous sentence, this is not pieced together by your stereotypical hacker sitting in a darkened room staring at his computer screen. These details are often scraped and pieced together by software operating at a speed which our hacker buddy couldn't maintain in a million years. I'm talking about a system or a bot which could potentially process 10,000 user identities in a second. So now, we have a name and an email address. Let's use that in an example. You receive an email. So, taking a look at this email I've just received. It's come into my inbox and at a glance, it looks legitimate. It's come from a very reputable source, Phil Urquhart of BlueBerryIT. But there's something a little funny about it, and let's have a look. If I open it up, the email purports to be offering me a guaranteed 200% return on my investment. Now, I know a lot of us are sceptical when we receive emails like this, but sometimes we see beyond that and we think, here's the opportunity for me to make a whole lot of money. Let's look a little bit deeper and see if we can spot some red flags. If we have a look at the introduction, hello dearest. A personal endearment, I wouldn't expect to have received that from a professional sender. I'm mailing you in confidence. There's a big spelling mistake there. That's a big red flag. A lot of these spammers and people that are stealing your identities come from non-English speaking countries. If we look further down through the second paragraph, we'll see that they've mentioned Nelson, the town that I'm from. Tying in those three bits of identification, my name, my organisation, and the place where I live, help lend a little bit of legitimacy to this email. But if we carry on through the email, particularly right to the end, we get our farewell and it is thanks you. Another big red flag. In the final sentence of the email, there is a URL pointing us to a website. The website is www.nelsoninvestments.co.nz. Again, using Nelson, my local town, to make it look legitimate. What you don't see at first glance is that in behind that hyperlink, it doesn't take us to a website called nelsoninvestments.co.nz. It can take us to any website. So that was a very basic overview of identity theft and what to expect when you receive emails from people who have stolen your identity. To reiterate some of these points, I'd like to introduce you to a senior technician here at BlueBerryIT, Paul Gabbaties, with PG Tips.
Tip number 1. If you receive an email you suspect to be a phishing scam, have a look at the sender's email address. If the from address doesn't match who it says it is, delete that email. Tip number 2. Check the body of the email. If the punctuation and the grammar looks a bit odd, chances are it's come from another country. The majority of the scammers come from countries like Russia and China who don't speak English as a first language. So delete that email. Tip number 3. Have a look in the body of the email for any links. Hover over that link, and if it doesn't match who it's come from, delete that email.
We hope you've enjoyed our video on internet security. For more information, contact us on our website, blueberryit.co.nz.
Let's talk about tech.